Monbasa, Mvita, multinational conspiracies, experiment on animals and humans. This is an interesting topic. Experiments on humans and animals are not all bad. There are some experiments that are done in order to try and get solutions to animal problems, to human problems. In fact, some animals that would have been extinct have been kept going by embryos being fertilized from the animal and bred in a different species of animal that has given birth to those animals that would be endangered. That is something we may say is good for conservation of the species that would have become extinct. We've got some plants that have been genetically revived. They would be extinct by now. So that is a good thing that happens. There also have been some experiments on animals that have made us discover that it's not only the gametes, that is the sperm and the ovum, that can produce a living thing. There is this experiment of an animal called Dolly, and it proved that any cell from your body, be it from the nose, be it from the ear, be it from the tongue, be it from the soft tissues, be it from the skin, if injected into an ovum, will produce a replica of you. So it's not only the sperms and the ova that can give birth, can produce a living thing, but if you get a cell from any of the body, a living cell, and inject into an ova, and then put it in a womb, you will have a living thing that is a copy of the very living thing that cell was gotten from. It has been tried, it has been proven. There are some animals that don't breed. If a goat and a sheep met, there will be no offspring. There's no pregnancy, in fact. If a dog, because I'm sorry to say this, but it has happened. There are some humans who have married dogs officially. And there are some people who have done that for pornography. A dog and a human being cannot be able naturally to produce a child. There is a lock on those genes. There's a lock between that gene of the sheep and the goat. That's why they are similar, but it's rare when you leave them in the field to see a breed that is half sheep, half goat. But these locks can be broken through science. And some have been broken, giving us interesting animals, giving us animals that are bizarre. And some of these animals would be monsters if they were left to grow. There have been conspiracies, in quotes, of aliens experimenting on human beings. But there have been conspiracies of secret experimentation between humans and animals. It is a very sensitive topic, and it's happening. though very few people know that it's happening. There are some countries where men are born men. At first, I argued. I never thought that you can be able to get the sexual part of a man removed, a dissection made, and I don't know how the process goes, but the man ends up with a female organ and everything female, and estrogen is induced, and he develops breasts, and is a woman. In some countries where prostitution is very profitable, and there are some races where similarity between men and women is not that diverse, some people who are jobless have decided to do that. Men have been operated and they are now women, and they earn their lives by prostitution. The thing that is happening. They were once male, they are now female prostitutes, because tourism and whatever is happening, and now they have been operated on and they are no longer men. Other experiments have involved cures. For instance, a human being donating an organ to a human being needs, if tissues can match and sometimes blood groups can match, because there are times when you may get an organ and the body rejects because there is no match. But human beings have realized that a pig and a human being are closely related. Strange that the way your body functions and the way a pig functions is almost related. And an organ grown through a pig will not be rejected by your body. So many have taken, in experimental basis, the DNA of humans, injected into pigs to produce organs so that you don't get spare parts directly from organs. There are experiments that have been going on. There was a person who died after, stayed for a while with the heart of a pig. His condition was severe and his heart was failing. And they operated on him. And the donor was a pig. Because he was almost dead, he said, okay, can carry out the experiment. And he stayed some months. Was it? Yeah, quite some months with the heart of a pig. There are genes that are gotten from us and sometimes are put in the laboratory and made to produce organs. They forming certain organs that can be for transplant. But there are some experiments that have been bizarre. Some experiments that have been scaring, because secretly, these ones have not been done openly, and they are done in great secrecy. People have experimented with genetics from humans and animals and come up with creatures that are scaring. There are some that have been done by private companies. There are some that have been done. Rumors are, so don't hold me and say this country, because I know this is a very sensitive issue. And if certain countries are touched, they will come hammers and tongs. So I don't want to touch on any country. But Some experiments have involved human beings and animals and produced creatures unknown. Many have not lived because of the mutation type of thing that has come, but there have been experiments that have been going on. Now, for instance, a pig that has been developed with human genes, crossing the pig so that it can be able to donate organs for humans. In such a breed of pigs, if you consume the pig, are you consuming a pig or are you consuming a human? It leaves some things debatable. There are those who have tried experimentally, I don't know how far they have gone, to do human cloning out of boundaries that are not any country, because many countries have outlawed. Animal cloning has been done, human cloning is prohibited. There are some people who have played with stem cells from human beings and stem cells from animals to come up with certain things. These things are going on and may affect you or me. There are things that people had a problem with. There was a case in America where a student from a certain country ate a student from another country. But then the question was it cannibalism? Some people said they could trace it to experiments elsewhere, because in another place again, a person who appeared to have been experimented on with such a thing ended up chewing the face of a person. There are these people who stay on the streets, and another one came and started eating the face of another person and had to be shot by the police. And it appeared it was a similar experiment, like the experiment that led another person eating another person. So there are some experiments that are being on human beings that may be dangerous to us. We may want to find things that may happen under certain circumstances, but it's a high time that people put their governments in check and watched. And people watched multinational private companies that may want to experiment on producing things that are bizarre, especially with humans. There are things that are going on, but many people do not know. So they do not bother. But if we are not careful, we may have things that will be dangerous to us. Like that one where people are eating one another, it was alleged to be a zombie thing that can be put in somebody, and those who can be able to control it from far can be able to control it from a distance for an attack. These are things that are there. These are things that are being experimented on. And it's a high time that we called for governments to own up some experiments and legitimize experiments that can go on and experiments that can't go on. I'm trying to imagine if human DNA is put in a goat, and that's the goat that is supposed to be used for meat. Will you be eating a goat? There have been some good experiments. There was an experiment where a spider DNA was it in a sheep or in a goat? And the milk that was extracted would produce threads as strong as spider webs. That may be something that may be important in the future. But we should get to know what's happening so that we know what can be legalized, legitimized, and what should be refused. Because there are times when we may consume human in animal form without knowing. There are certain things that happen, and we get problems, especially on sex issues, male and women, female. There are women who have become men, and there are problems like that. I remember having talked about it in the past. But what we should be keen about is us being intercrossed with animals and species that nature could not allow us to intercross, because there are some things that the gametes can never intercross. A human, a cow, unless it's broken down to that level of scientific, you can never fertilize a cow can never fertilize you. But scientifically, something that can be done in that those gametes, those genes can be able to be interrelated. Could we have a future where we can have human cow, human lion, like you see in some books, a lion, a human with the head of a lion, and it's not a cross? There are also things that have been done, experiments. It has been proven that you can be able to get a head from an animal and be able to plant it on another animal, transplant, and the animal live. In the beginning, the experiments had failed, but there was an experiment done by a country of a dog, where a head was removed from a dog to another dog and lived for some time. So there are bizarre experiments that may be going on, bizarre things that may be happening around the world that we will need checked, so that our future as human beings, the future of other things, may not be interfered with. There's a lot I would have talked about, but this is a sensitive issue. And when countries are covering, anything can happen legally. So I leave it there. Find out more for yourself. That's my take for now.